So for the past 20 to 30 years, you've done all the right things when it came to your investments and preparing for your retirement. You maxed out your 401k. You funded your Roth IRA. You invested in a taxable brokerage account. And despite all the chaos of the market, you stayed patient and you stayed invested. And because of that, you're sitting on a nice pile of nest eggs. If this is you, I truly want to congratulate you. You have achieved something only a small fraction of people in this country ever will, and that is worthwhile celebrating. However, there's just one problem. You've done an amazing job accumulating your wealth, but nobody ever taught you how to actually take the money out. Because most financial content, including most of what you'll find on YouTube, is focused on the accumulation phase. Save more, invest more, compound more. And that advice is correct and great, but it is only half the story. If we want to have a comfortable retirement, we must also learn how to withdraw well. So that is what we're going to tackle today. And hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow our wealth slow and steady. Before we get into the order of withdrawal, let me talk about a simple framework so we have a good container to work within. Let's talk about the 3 investment buckets. If you're like most people, you probably have money scattered around everywhere. A 401k from your old employer, an IRA you opened up years ago but haven't signed in for a while, and maybe a brokerage account you opened up recently because you told yourself you will invest more going forward. And if we're honest, having all these accounts can feel messy and complicated. But when you distill it down to its fundamentals, every single one of these accounts simply fall into one of 3 buckets, distinguished by how they're treated from a tax perspective. Bucket 1. Taxable accounts. These are your regular brokerage accounts. They themselves receive no tax treatment. You funded these with money you have already paid income tax on, and any dividends and growth are all taxed. If there's one silver lining to money in this account, is the fact that if you held the investment for more than a year, you pay a long-term capital gains rate, which is often lower than ordinary income tax rates. For most people, that rate is likely 15%. For some, if their total income is low enough, it could be even 0%. Bucket 2. Tax-deferred accounts. This is probably the one that most people are familiar with. Your work's traditional 401k, 403b, or if you have a personal traditional IRA, falls within this bucket. And what is special about this account is that every dollar you contributed was tax deductible, which means it not only lowered your taxable income during your working years, it allowed you to invest more because your precious dollars weren't going to taxes at the time. But of course, Uncle Sam was not doing this out of the kindness of his heart. Just like there is never a free lunch, Uncle Sam will eventually want his share. Thus, when it comes time to withdraw, every dollar you withdraw from this bucket will be taxed as ordinary income, which will likely be higher than the capital gains tax rate that we talked about earlier. Finally, we have bucket 3, tax-free accounts. This is your Roth IRA and your Roth 401k. You paid taxes on this money before it went in. And if you were in a high tax bracket, probably a pretty penny. But in exchange for that, the government made you a promise. Everything that grows inside this account and everything you eventually take out is completely tax-free. No taxes on dividends, no taxes on the gains, no taxes on the withdrawals. Not now, not ever. Thus, as you can guess, out of the 3 buckets that we covered so far, this is probably the most favorable bucket to get your money into if you're willing to pay the price. And I want to add one more account that belongs in this 3rd bucket, the HSA or Health Savings Account. A great account to have if you're eligible. Why? Because the HSA is the only account in existence that is triple tax advantaged. Contributions go in pre-tax, the money grows tax-free, and withdrawals are completely tax-free, as long as you use them for qualified medical expenses. It is a bit nuanced in who qualifies and how you can get money out, but if you're able to open one, it would fall under this tax-free bucket. Alright, so this is the basic bucket framework on how to think about all the accounts that you own. Even though they might all have different names, and they're likely sitting with different firms, when you strip them down to their essentials, they all really fall within one of 3 buckets. Okay, so now that we covered a general framework, let's talk about the order of withdrawal. With these 3 buckets in mind, here's the general rule when it comes to order of withdrawal. First, draw from your taxable accounts. Second, draw from your tax-deferred accounts. Third, draw from your tax-free accounts. Simple enough, right? Now you can turn me off and watch something more interesting because that essentially is the meat of the video. But of course, if you're a numbers nerd like I am, you want to know more. You want to understand the logic. And you should. Because blindly following advice from a random guy on the internet, no matter how incredible his hair is never a good financial strategy. So let me walk you through the reasoning behind each one. The first account to tap in our withdrawal order is taxable accounts. Now, why is this? The basic logic here is because there's no special tax shelter with these accounts. Not only did you fund these accounts with after-tax dollars, all dividends and all gains are taxed. Thus, compared to your tax-deferred accounts and tax-free accounts, they provide no special benefit to holding longer than you need to. But as mentioned earlier, as long as you hold the investments longer than a year, you'll pay a long-term capital gains rate, which for most people should be lower than ordinary income tax rates. The bottom line logic with tapping into your taxable account is this. Spend the unprotected money first at the lower rate and give your sheltered accounts as much time as possible to keep compounding. Alright, after our taxable account comes the tax-deferred account second. And for most people, if you've been contributing to your 401k for years and you had any sort of match, this is likely your biggest bucket. A couple of things to note about this bucket. One is the fact that every dollar that comes out of a traditional 401k or IRA is taxed as ordinary income, likely higher than the capital gains tax rate for most people. This naturally leads to people delay drawing from these accounts as long as possible. However, there is a catch, which leads to a second thing to note about this bucket. 2. You cannot delay forever. Depending on when you were born, the IRS requires you to begin taking required minimum distribution, or RMDs, either at the age of 73 or 75. It doesn't matter if you need the money or not. You're legally required to withdraw a specific percentage from your traditional accounts. This is the deal you made when you defer those taxes. Eventually, Uncle Sam comes to collect, but on his timeline. Thus, for many people who have been spending years contributing to their 401k and never touching it, they could be sitting on millions of dollars, all of which need to be taxed as ordinary income. Many call this the RMD time bomb. Now, within the financial industry, people like to raise the alarm about RMDs as if it is the end of the world. Personally, I'd rather have the problem of having too much money than too little. And there are ways to mitigate this tax challenge, which we'll get to shortly. Alright, the last bucket to withdraw from, the tax-free account. Again, this is your Roth IRA, your Roth 401k, and your HSA earmarked for medical expenses. Every dollar inside these accounts grow completely tax-free. No taxes on dividends, no tax on gains, no tax on withdrawals. In the world of investment buckets, it doesn't get any better than this. Thus, the reason why we want to leave this bucket until the end. And what else is great about leaving this bucket until the end is that the longer it sits untouched, the more it compounds and more it grows. And at the end, it doesn't cost you a single dollar in taxes. Amazing, right? So that is the general order. Taxable first, tax-deferred second, tax-free last. Very simple, right? But of course, this is just a framework, and there are going to be situations that will require a different approach. So let's get into that as well. But before we get there, I want to briefly touch upon the RMD time bomb that we alluded to earlier. Because while many people get nervous about the so-called RMD time bomb, there are very simple ways to mitigate that as long as we plan well. Alright, so how to mitigate the RMD time bomb? It actually starts with what we like to call the gap years. Gap years are essentially any time before your RMDs begin at the age of 73 or 75 when your taxable income is low for whatever reason. It could be because you took a sabbatical, or you retired early, or you decided to go part-time. Whatever the reason, when you have an artificially low income year, this gap year is an excellent time to mitigate your RMD time bomb. Here's how it works. During the gap years, you want to do two things. First, try to keep your taxable income as low as possible by living off your savings or your taxable account, which means you want to build up cash reserves before you reach those gap years. Second, while your taxable income is low, move money from your traditional IRA into a Roth IRA. This is what is called a Roth conversion. You pay ordinary income tax on the amount you convert, but because you're in a lower taxable income year, you'll convert at a lower tax rate. This could be 22% or even 12%, depending on where you're at in the income bracket. It might feel odd to do this. Convert and pay taxes when you're not really needing the money. However, you have to remind yourself that you're doing this for your future self. The chances are, the taxes you're paying are likely going to be the lowest rate you'll ever see. Additionally, every dollar you convert during the gap year is a dollar that will never face an RMD. It is a dollar that will grow and be withdrawn completely tax-free for the rest of your life. This is also why Social Security timing becomes just as much a tax planning decision as it is a retirement income decision. Every year you delay claiming Social Security past your full retirement age, up until age 70, your monthly benefit grows by approximately 8%. That alone is a compelling reason to wait, but as you can see, there is a tax benefit to doing so. If you claim Social Security too early, that income gets layered on top of your Roth conversions, pushing your combined income higher and shrinking your conversion room. By delaying Social Security, you keep your income low during the gap years, which means you can convert more at a lower tax rate for longer. Then when you finally claim Social Security near 70, You have a higher monthly benefit, a smaller traditional IRA, and a much larger Roth. That is a powerful combination. Now, if you'd like to run your own numbers on this, I actually built a free Roth conversion analyzer tool. You plug in your filing status, your estimated annual income, and how much you're thinking of converting. And it will show you your marginal tax bracket, the tax cost of converting, and how much room you have left before hitting the next bracket. It's a simple tool, but it makes the math very concrete. I'll drop the link in the description below. It is completely free. My gift to you for enduring this boring video and admiring my ridiculously amazing hair for 15 minutes. Alright, with the RMD covered, let's now come back to talk about some of the unique scenarios where you might want to deviate from the order of withdrawal that we just covered. Scenario 1. You're approaching IRMAA threshold. IRMAA is a Medicare premium surcharge that kicks in when your income crosses certain thresholds. In 2026, the first cliff is around $106,000 for single filers and $212,000 for married filing jointly. If your traditional account withdrawals are about to push you over that line, it could make sense to pull from your Roth instead for that portion of your spending. Switching to Roth keeps your income below the threshold and avoids a meaningful jump in your Medicare premiums. Scenario 2. Your taxable account has very large embedded capital gains. The standard order puts taxable first because capital gains rates are generally lower than ordinary income rates. But that logic assumes the gains are manageable. If you bought positions decades ago and they have appreciated significantly, selling them triggers a large capital gains tax bill all at once. In that situation, drawing from your traditional account first at ordinary income rates could be cheaper than realizing a massive gain from your taxable account. Scenario 3. You have significant ongoing medical expenses. If you're dealing with major health costs in retirement, and for many people it is a matter of when, not if, it can make sense to draw from your HSA before your taxable account. Every dollar spent from your HSA in qualified medical expenses is completely tax-free. No capital gains, no ordinary income, nothing. So when a large medical bill arrives, your HSA is likely the most tax-efficient dollar you can spend. Again, the order of withdrawal we covered is a strong general guideline that works well for most people. But as these three scenarios show, life is rarely one size fits all. The right approach always depends on your specific situation. So use a framework as your starting point, but do not be afraid to adjust when your circumstances call for it. Alright, so I talked a lot in this video, so let me bring it all together in a summary. Step 1. Know your buckets. As mentioned earlier, every account you own falls into one of three simple buckets: taxable, tax-deferred, or tax-free. Know what you have in each one before you start making withdrawal decisions. Step 2. Follow the order. Unless you have a unique situation, spend your taxable accounts first, your tax-deferred accounts second, and protect your tax-free accounts for last. This keeps your most powerful accounts compounding for as long as possible. Step 3. Leverage the gap years. The window between when you stop working and when RMDs begin is the single most valuable planning opportunity to mitigate the RMD time bomb. So live off your cash or taxable accounts and do Roth conversions while your income is low. Step 4. Delay Social Security. Every year you delay past your full retirement age up to age 70, your monthly benefits grow by approximately 8%. And by keeping Social Security off the table during the gap years, you create more room to do Roth conversions at a lower rate for longer. Step 5. Stay flexible. The order we covered today is a framework, not a law. Life does not stay still, and neither should your withdrawal strategy. Every year, take a look at your full picture: your income, your account balances, your tax bracket, and withdraw based on what makes best sense for your life situation. Bottom line, recognize that the withdrawal phase does not have to be complicated, but it does have to be intentional. You spent all those years building your wealth. Be intentional about how you take it out. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Thank you guys for watching, and if this video helped, the natural next step is my 5-step Roth conversion blueprint. Because everything we covered in the gap year section only works if you know how to execute the conversion correctly. Until next time, all the best.